Now we have our next match coming up, which is Feno taking on BoarControl in this one. A nice little team kill that we have going on here. And the matchup, it's pretty much a pride matchup at this point. Feno is locked for playoffs. BoarControl did not have the most fantastic season for him here. I think very much like I sentimented for Boston. I don't think he's had the greatest of fortunate situations, although he'll tell the story a lot differently. There's a lot he could have done differently.
There is, but I think he's also fairly and accurately assessed that in several weeks he has brought a deck that was good on average against the majority of the field and just hit a weak matchup for the deck that he was playing, which he was unfavored to do, right? He's deserved better matchups than he's got in a couple of spots, is the TLDR version of what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, it is a matchup with a lot of pride on the line, but I think pride there will be a lot of between these two, because they are good friends and they're practice partners and they generally stream around the same time. There's a lot of back and forth between them. So I'm sure there have been one or two little nudges from Feno to Boar saying like, hey buddy, you see that number next to my name and that number next to yours? It's quite a big difference.
No.
Yeah.
Neither of them would do something like that.
Fair enough.
Neither of them take friendly jabs at one another that are actually quite sharp jabs. They're not sharp enough to pierce the skin, but they poke and they make you worry a little bit. Those kind of verbal jabs. Neither of them have ever done that. No. That's ridiculous. What are you talking about?
Are you done? Is this ever going to come to an end?
Well, you can pick it up and interrupt anytime you want.
That was good. So in case you wondered why we haven't really covered the matchups as the decks flashed up on screen there, it's because this is the fourth time in a row that we are featuring Mage versus Rogue, so we've pretty much covered it into the ground. But if you are just joining us, it's really a story of the sideboard decks. As Bunny Hopper explained very succinctly in his interview there, it's a pretty 50-50 matchup out the gate. Most people would say that it's ever so slightly Rogue favored, but then depending on who has the sideboard available, they can really change huge things in their favor. Feno does have an anti-Mage version of his deck. BoarControl does have a, quote, anti-rogue version of his Mage deck, but it's the thing Kalento was talking about very early on, where he said it's just 2 cards being changed, just 2 halftime scavengers coming into the deck.
I think it's important, but I see his point.
Wait, you see whose point?
I see Kalento's point. I think it's important to have the halftime scavengers, but I see his point.
Okay.
Just 2 cards.
Interesting.
Can you get a better overall edge against an expectation of field by having a different alternate game plan?
Well,
I think yes.
I think what's interesting to me is even if you gave me the restriction of you're playing against Rogue, you can only change 2 cards, I would put in Frostbolts before I put in halftime scavengers.
Why is that?
Job's done.
Because I think you kind of saw the situation in Boston series where Frostbolt is just such a generically effective card. It buys you so much time. It's good on 2, it's good on 4, it's good on 5, in partnership with any of the 3 mana cards that you have, you know, Arcane Intellect, Banana Buffoon, these are all fantastic turns. And against Rogue, you are killing 3 health minions. You are going to have to achieve that at some point during the game if you're going to be victorious. So Frostbolt to me is the #1 anti-Rogue card on my list anyway.
Apologize for the spectator issues. Thank you for being patient with us. We're going to get fixed as quickly as possible. I haven't gotten an update as to what exactly is going on, but I agree with all your points there. And I did catch the treat of very early on seeing the coin go to Feno and then BoarControl reacting negatively in regards to
negatively, yes.
Well, how would you describe it?
I just like the way you put it. It's like you were really searching for the word and just negatively.
All the other words I cannot say.
Ah, I see. That's what was going through your head.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that Feno and Boar might have been 2 of the players in Europe anyway that react the most harshly to little things that make a big difference collectively.
Yeah.
It's just like every single thing is a smaller tax that just adds up, where you look down at the end and there's so many different ones on you. You go, well, how could I have won if that's the case? My opponent did everything good. I did everything good. These things I could not control went in their favor.
And it goes to speak a lot to Feno in particular, like his competitive motivation. We've kind of talked about this topic a lot today, where he has been all but locked up for a couple of weeks now. But even last week, where he started at 9-1, well above and beyond what everyone else was chasing him down with, he was still, you know, emoting very heavily to situations that were going against his favor, and even admitted afterwards that he was very tilted by one of his losses. So it just goes to show that even at 9-1 and now at 10-2, he just wants to win every game of Hearthstone. Like, it really does mean that much to him.
I want to point out the skull of the Minari reference that we just had in regards to Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and look at the hand from BoarControl and lament with him.
Yes.
I feel like this is seriously, like, I think that Boar in some very, if you want to get super pedantic, there are some spots where BoarControl could have played better. But I think overall, one of the biggest stories has been the outcomes that he doesn't necessarily have control over. It's things that have ranges, and the range does not fall into the category of favorable for you. And I think this is another one of those spots. He's got 3 Giants and a Lunas in hand. I just cannot imagine a hand that you want to really see less.
I'm sorry, George. I don't want to laugh at you, but you are funny.
He can't do anything.
What to do?
His hand currently is a 2/2, gain 5 health, or hero power. That's it. Oh, you could give your opponent some more minions. That sounds like a great turn.
And this right here is why Luna's Pocket Galaxy is not Skull of the Minari, because Skull of the Minari would be the absolute nuts right now if it was pulling out all of these giants.
Yeah.
But the kind of extra caveat that you have to draw your cards in the right order with Luna's Pocket Galaxy, Luna's first and then minions after, that's what makes it just a little bit different. But I very much agree with Bunny Hopper's assessment. I'm gonna go on the record that I also think Luna's Pocket Galaxy is an also include.
I didn't think about the skull reference, and honestly, it just makes sense to me, so I agree with it, kind of. The problem is just when you draw your things, then it doesn't do anything. Skull worked before or after you drew them.
Yeah.
But yeah, BoarControl just...
Sorry, I'm actually captivated by Boar's camera right now.
Oh, I am too.
This is just where my eyes live now, just staring at Boar.
I'm looking forward to the...
This guy's
perhaps situation where the roles are reversed in the next game and Fino's doing the exact same thing.
Right.
Because we're going to get to that game quick. Ah, perfect.
The future.
Well, the upside is that all of his cheap cards are still in his deck.
Behold the
Oh, I
tools
didn't
of
say...
creation.
Did I say it facetiously?
Behold
It sounded
the
like it,
Oh,
tools
no,
of
I definitely meant that
creation.
as, like, perfect. Like, that was the actual draw,
Behold
because...
the tools of creation.
What was my phrase last week? The deck that's just capable of scumming out a win from nowhere?
Oh, it's Scam Mage. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, scam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You're right.
No, there's nothing scummy about it.
No.
I mean, you're allowed to play with the cards.
Right.
You require my assistance.
Behold the tools of
So
creation.
hand size exactly on the Ray of Frost first. Interesting. Oh, well, I mean, maybe I said we were going to get to game 2, but, I mean, the scam card got drawn.
No, you are correct. We are going to get to game 2 very quickly. Those are your words, and they remain they remain accurate.
Look, when I said that Dr. Boom would be playable if the Boombots had taunt, that's technically true.
Fino's face now. Yep.
And Boar just throws up his hands like, oh, what can I do? I mean, come on. Well, you could do this. This looks great.
Yeah. If you ever wondered about some of the micro difficulties of actually playing these turns perfectly with Mage, I think the dissatisfaction with just about every player on their face after they've played a turn this complicated with Mage today, every single one.
It's the biggest one. Let's do that. Nope.
Yeah, Rush Lackey is available as well.
I think Fino's struggling to find the turn that makes the most sense. Oh, you have Rush with the Hand of the Divine, too.
Sorry. Oh, with Handed Protection? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Why does it Hand of the Divine? What am I doing?
Just describing what it does.
Whoa. Whoa.
Wait, what's your problem? This all seems fine to me so far. What did you want to do?
Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, he's going to leave the Antonitis up because there's not enough... Wait, why did we Vendetta this time?
Yeah, I'm not sure why the Vendetta didn't happen.
Okay. Well, that's the thing I have the problem with then. I'm okay with the decision call thing, but not dealing 4 damage to a minion. Maybe it's to like push past a mirror image taunt or something? But what, it costs 4 now.
Yeah. But yeah, he could just want to save it. It could be deliberate. Like, he doesn't look upset with the turn, so he could just be holding onto it deliberately to try and answer further taunts on the next turn.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
He knows there's a giant Conjurer's turn available if there's defensive options coming down.
Because you have the Hedge Clan Burglar with the Vendetta. Okay, I can kind of buy it.
Wonder.
I'll rent it. I'm going to take it back as soon as I find out it's not a good story, though. For board priority, obviously, is near Frost Nova.
Runs out on me.
Is Conjurer's Calling better? Is Fireball better? The answer is make as much defensive stuff as possible.
The answer is yes.
And blow. Yeah, and Fino, wow. I cannot believe the turnaround that just happened from that Luna's Pocket Galaxy. It drew 1-cost Sorcerer's Apprentices. That is actually what enabled all this.
Yep.
That's insane.
Back-to-back draws in a dead hand were the Lunas. The Luna was in hand, and then back-to-back draws of Sorcerer's Apprentice into Absolute Gas into Antonidas. Like, it had to be almost specifically that. And now if this Apprentice lives, BoarControl has lethal from hand on the following turn, even if this board state was taken care of, which invent a world where Rogue deals with this entire board. Go ahead, I'll wait.
It would be Ethereal Lackey to Vanish.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Vanish went to the Hall of Fame.
Nothing.
Yep, just got to rebuy. Just got to keep fishing for answers that don't exist.
From nothing. Power.
Yeah, I repeat, Vanish is moved to the Hall of Fame.
I give up.
Game 1 to BoarControl, and he cannot believe it. Scam Mage.
Yeah.
That was just 3-cost Gadgets and Auctioneer, but it activates on your mini. It's just Stargazer Luna. There we go. It's Stargazer Luna.
Luna. Yeah, sometimes cards are so powerful that by likening them to cards, you know, from the metagame 2 to 3 years ago, all we're doing is kind of diminishing them, right? Like, sometimes cards are just so nuts that they become the new standard. You know, future cards will be like Stargazer Luna. We don't have to keep calling everything back ad infinitum. It doesn't work like that. It's just a good card.
Say that again?
Hmm?
What the word you
Ad
used?
infinitum? Am I pronouncing that wrong?
Well, I just, American. Ad infinitum.
Oh, okay.
It's like the aluminium thing.
Yeah, but you just stick extra letters and stuff in it.
Well, no,
We stick
technically
extra
you
letters.
stuck
Yeah, we
yeah.
stick extra letters.
Don't go
Well,
acute.
technically, you took letters out of it. Now we're there.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Okay.
We reduced the number of things that we had to read in that one. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to jump into game number 2 of this. Both of them, again, have side deck in play. If you are a big fan of the Rogue Mage matchup, today was your day, our 4th one here. Fino versus BoarControl coming up to game 2 right after this.
My name is Christos Sakopoulos. My username comes from when I was a kid. I used to go to like an internet cafe with my friends to play like, I remember WoW and stuff like that. And I just had to make a character one day, and one of my friends said, your plays are phenomenal, so you can just put the name Fenomeno there. And I just did it, and then it just stuck. The thing that's unique about my playstyle, I feel, is that I sometimes think about stupid plays that other people would never even consider, and I try to get something out of it. I think people don't pay attention to details like trading or going face. I really pay attention to those things because I think it's super important. Like even one bad trade can cost you the game a lot of times. My favorite memory was definitely when I won my first Hearthstone tournament last year in HCT Orange County. And doing that just gave me so much more confidence and made me feel like I was free again. I'd say being in Grandmasters means that I've made it to the top players of Europe, which has always been my goal. So yeah, I'm looking forward to start competing again.
I'm George Webb, known as BoarControl in-game. So my name, BoarControl, you would always say this player has board control when you're casting something, and if there's a Stone Chest boar on board, suddenly that player has boar control. The memory that stands out to me from Hearthstone has to be my first tournament victory, which was at Seat Story House Cup 10. I had to face off against Orange in the semi-finals, Tansifka in the quarters, Fino in the round of 16, so it's a pretty stacked event, and then facing Casey in the final, winning that tournament, that really stands out as the main memory. I like to play decks that get on board, and you have swing turns, and you have trades, lots of trades on the board, you try and get an edge in that sense. I'm also open to playing lots of other decks like combo decks too, but in general in Hearthstone, spending your mana and playing a guy has been the best play you can do. In Grandmasters, I want to do well. It's a new format, best of 3, so it's going to be more difficult to get an edge, but I'll try my best to find that edge and do as well as I can in the tournament.
I was going to make you just do a walk back on. It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region, our final week of the regular season until we get to playoffs, which is just next week. I'm That's Admirable, and I'm joined by Sottle. And we are amidst the series between Fino and BoarControl, where Fino is down a game thanks to BoarControl's big scam with the Luna in the last turn, and both of them are swapping decks up to their secondary.
Yeah, and there's always going to be merit in Hearthstone to playing a deck that can do that, right? Like, the most extreme example I can think of that actually became competitively viable for some period was the Barnes Yasharaj Hunter, right? Where it was just, if you drew Barnes on 4, you won the game most of the time. If you didn't, you still won the game about 25% of the time. And the combination of those two things give you a positive win rate. This Mage is a very different version of that because it wins very consistently without doing anything too disgusting, just by doing the regular disgusting things that it can do. But that's a big reason why when you're coming into this tournament, you dedicate one of your decks to being able to take care of Mage, and that's exactly what Fino has done here. Standard package, we've said it a bunch of times today already because we've been covering exclusively this matchup up to this point: Betrayals, Fairy Dragons, and Walk the Plank.
Indeed. Get some stuff on board, start hitting them in the face with it. When they have to plop a giant in the face of that pressure, blow it up.
Yep, and unlike the graphic that you just saw there, the keycards are not directly correlated to the changes. It's just the half-time scavengers that are coming in for BoarControl in place of one Banana Buffoon and one Archmage Antonidas. And we'll give a shout out if you want to play any of these decks for yourself on ladder. I would recommend the primary lists if you're going to go with any of those strategies, but if you're facing a particular deck more often than not, you can use one of the count strategies. There is a QR code for you right there at the top right of the screen if you are just too lazy for a deck code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go me.
I've never used a QR code in my life.
Really?
Nope.
You strike me as a QR code kind of person.
What does that mean?
It's super efficiency regardless of... My head went to the word cost, and it wasn't cost. It was regardless of ridiculousness of the length with which to get that efficiency. Like, creating a QR code must have taken a ton of effort, like the system itself. But now that it's there, you just scan it. Like, you make a list of data, and boop, there it is. It looks so weird, like the QR code itself. Like, look at it. It's a very jarring looking
He's still
thing.
going, guys. He's still talking about QR codes. I want to talk about Magic Trick. I want to talk about why Ball cast it on turn 1 when we saw it previously in previous series not being cast on turn 1. And the difference is the lack of Sorcerer's Apprentice. I talked about it then. He has 1 mana this turn, he might as well invest it. There is lost opportunity here of not knowing which card he wants, but of course if things like Ray of Frost or Arcane Intellect popped up in isolation, then he would just take the card that's in his deck. In this situation, faced with Ray of Frost and Arcane Intellect, he has a tough choice on his hand, a choice that might crystallize more as time goes on if he waits and gains more information. But in that spot, it's just about mana efficiency. He has 1 mana, he spends it, he gets his magic trick cast, whereas if you have a Sorcerer's Apprentice in your hand, mana efficiency isn't an issue because you can always cast magic trick 4-0.
I think some of it has to do with the way his hand is also otherwise contextualized. I think with Sorcerer's Apprentice in that hand, because he has 2 halftime scavengers with it, I think it's also likely that he would see the magic trick on turn 1 in that spot. Just simply accounting for like actual mana expenditure, because I feel so often your turn 3 is going to be coin scavenger and your turn 4 is going to be scavenger.
Right, because with that hand, he also is not likely to play the Sorcerer's Apprentice anytime soon, so therefore he doesn't soon get the discount. That makes sense.
That's kind of
I'm on board
as well.
Yep.
So, spectator issue again. We apologize for that. We'll get it fixed as quickly as we can. Thank you for your patience. If you've been sticking with us through all the matches so far, you have a great amount of patience for Mage Rogue matchups. Which honestly, the thing that I've liked about him though is that all of the initial decks have been slightly different.
Yes.
Like we still have not landed on what players want to do with their initial 30 cards, and a lot of that is going to be, you know, what they expect to face off against. That's where those little changes come in. But overall, we've seen something different every single time.
Never before has the phrase "this escalated quickly" been more appropriate. We look away and suddenly 4 or 5 turns have passed. These players not hanging about. Feels like 30 seconds ago we left them on turn 1.
I feel like Fino certainly is on the quicker pace of play side.
I would agree with that.
I wonder.
This guy's toast.
Having to fight back through 2 halftime scavengers here is slowing down this aggression enormously. You can see how aggressive his opener was just by how low ball control has been pushed. But that Fairy Dragon, one of the few things that is able to answer it effectively in this version of the Mage, is just having a preloaded halftime scavenger on board.
I will show you fear.
It honestly looks so wonky how important that card is. But when you see it against Fairy Dragon, I feel like it's a world of difference. Where you're like, oh, I get some of this life back. I still get to keep a minion in play.
Yep.
Everything feels right with the world.
Bizarre hypothetical question. Say this is just a 3-5 stealth, did not have the overkill effect here. Would you still trade it into the Fairy Dragon?
No.
Elaborate.
Well, I have a 2-4 in play. Okay.
Time runs out on me.
Also 3-3 versus 3-2. I guess it would kind of further depend on my hand.
Sure. Is often the answer to any hypothetical question in Hearthstone.
Well, I'm thinking specifically like with this, like with Ray of Frost or without Ray of Frost. I think without Ray of Frost, you're more inclined to not kill the Fairy Dragon. I think with Ray of Frost, because you can shut down things kind of at your will,
Right.
you're very interested in killing the Fairy Dragon there.
Okay.
But maybe you're supposed to count for the future draw. I don't know.
Fino not messing around here. Fully clear on where the place is. He picked up the SI. He has the answer to the halftime scavenger there anyway, so there's kind of very little upside into trading into it. And even if he whiffs, then he's able to then find outs off the Lackey, Rush Lackey, and Damage Lackey. We're able to get him out of it. He ends up getting both, which completely maximizes his board state here. Ball control now very much on the back foot. Does have Stargazer Luna Sorcerer's Apprentice combination in hand yet again, though, for similar potential fireworks as we saw last game.
No card on the right.
Yeah, the problem is the card on the right is not quite cooperating.
We also don't have a Luna's Pocket Galaxy played yet. This is a tough spot.
And again, whenever you're watching a top player play against Mage, pay attention to the cost of the Mage player's Giants in combination with their Frost Novas. And just see how often it's 1 or 2 points out of range. And that is not an accidental situation. That is a deliberate calculation that's always taking place on the opponent's side of the board.
The other thing to notice is how often they don't play Mountain Giants after game 1 versus Rogue.
Yes.
That is in direct fear to walk the plank.
What are your feelings on that? Do you think players are too timid when the walk the plank comes in?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
When you're like against a minion and they walk the plank you're like, oh my gosh, I am dead.
I feel like just based on our practice sessions, you have a lower opinion of this deck of Mage than a lot of people do.
What do you mean?
Well, during our practice sessions, I've seen you in a lot of spots where you're just like, oh, I can't win. I can't win this matchup. This is impossible. This hand never does anything.
Well, what I'm saying by that is really is I have to draw the Luna and then scan my way there. Like that's I don't learn anything from that. The whole purpose of those practice matches is to learn the function. I think very highly of the deck, and I always ask myself, what would Fino do? He's the player I think whose playstyle I most relate with.
Yeah, I think the best example of that from our practice session was, what would Fino do here? And then he just plays a 2-2 Khadgar on 2.
That won me the game.
It did.
Now, it lost me the next game.
50% win rate. You take that.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Especially Fino, not an exciting turn. It's add some pressure, it's chip away. However, he is chipping away quite quickly. One's like a lot more when your opponent's at 13 instead of 30.
Once again, I'm going to keep pointing it out. That Sea Giant costs 5, that Frost Nova costs 3. He just played a spell that turn to kill a 2-2 as opposed to developing more minions. What does that play around? Plays around Sea Giant Frost Nova.
Well, there's an opportunity here.
We thinking Luna?
Again, almost every way I slice it, I wanted to play the Mountain Giant with a Frost Nova. I really did, but it's so scary. Like, you just die to a walk the plank. One singular card.
Yeah.
I feel like if Boar's going to win this game, it's going to be some combination of freeze the board effects, find a Ziliax, and get clear skies with initiative. In this case, he's thinking Mana Cyclone is the best way to do that. I don't blame him.
Okay. Yikes.
Well, those aren't necessarily bad. I don't know where Boar was on his turn when all these random spells cropped up.
They're usually a fair bit ahead of us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Ooh, double Sea Giant now, which I think is what you were alluding to when the Arcane Missiles didn't kill anything. Now does set him up for potential outs. Does have the Kona Cold to pair alongside it. Fino's Kona Cold positioning, pretty solid, by the way.
Big thing, little thing, big thing, little thing, big thing.
Yep. 2 biggest things separated at the extremes on top of that as well. Continuing, 2 biggest things separated at the extremes. Fino's putting on a clinic right now. I don't even care if he wins or loses. He's playing super well.
Savagery is interesting. Namely because of that exact card. That helps you push through taunts. All right, Boar's got to cook up a mess here. Seeing 3 + 2 + 3 = 4 Giants. Is that the best, though? Two plus 2 leaves you 4 left, so that means if you don't get any Grave Horrors, you have potential to manipulate the board state. Interesting.
Or even if you do get 2 Grave Horrors, you can just stick on your 2 Grave Horrors and play Kona Cold alongside the Sea Giants. That's like maximum board lockdown at that point, right? It's gonna go Khadgars though.
He wants to
Even there, like with so many options available to you.
Runs out on me.
Well, I mean, playing Khadgar doesn't change your likelihood of getting any taunts.
I just say uh-oh because I don't see a taunt on the first one and I get
No,
nervous.
I was reacting to the, like, he played Khadgar and you said he wants the taunts. I'm just like curious as to what that's in reference to.
he wants to see a taunt, and then he wants to see another taunt.
Okay,
Then he
fine.
wants to see another taunt, and then he wants to see another taunt.
Okay, fine.
Which, if you see the first 3, you're getting the 4th. And if you see the first, you're getting the 2nd. He wants the taunts, the Mountain Giants are useless.
Okay.
He needs to not die this turn, and then he wins.
Yes.
So, taunts. You'll take 3 8s at this point.
Sure.
So many options.
Trying to think if Fino has a technical out.
Astral Rift, a big game hunter plus the savagery would be lethal, would it not? Depending on what bounces, I guess.
Ha, this guy's toast.
Can he stay alive? I mean, he has a misdirection in hand. That's wacky.
Choose soon.
So now, if he were to take this damage with his face, bounce exactly the SI7 agent, and then play Miscreant and get a damage source.
Oh!
Oh!
That's a damage source.
Goblin, yeah.
That's
he
a
gets
damage
it.
source.
He gets it, he finds it. Boar cannot believe what just happened.
Wow!
Back and forth. The exact inverse of the first game we watched, where Boar was looking dead in the water before he found some miracle out from the top of his deck. Fino in that one, after playing incredibly well, by the way, found himself miles behind against that giant turn. Had to bounce the SI7. That was his only out, apart from weird, like, 1-outers from his Astral Rift. And he gets it. Even then, he can still whiff on the Lackey after that as well.
Took the savagery.
Yeah.
Took the savagery.
Yeah.
Weapons give your hero attack. It's not just bite and pounce or whatever. You know, I've talked about the Nash equilibrium thing. Nash is always the worst one.
Yeah.
The card Nash. But the point I'm getting at is took the savagery. Like, that's such an unnaturally intuitive thing where, like, so often I see that card and I just go, this thing is useless. In that time, it was paramount importance. 1 mana, 4 damage to a minion. Bootleg Vendetta.
Card just says damage on it. Seems pretty good to me. Sign me up.
That's always the one thing I have to look out for. If a card says damage, I need to reread it again.
Yeah.
Where does the damage go? To minion? It's okay.
I really feel like this series has, you know, kicked the matchup into overdrive from what we've seen so far. We've seen pretty textbook examples up to this point, and now in our final one of the day before we switch away from our Rogue versus Mage marathon, they've just exhibited some of the more wacky outcomes that we can see in the matchup.
Also, I think it demonstrated a lot of the importance of just technical play in general, where little things matter. They matter a lot. It's like, you can see why both of the players react, I think, so extremely to even at times minor things. And, you know, they react pretty extremely, of course, to the major things as well. But they're doing so much to try and manipulate every possible thing imaginable that when something happens and there's just nothing you can do about it, they genuinely feel bad about that situation.
Yeah, so we can focus on the out at the end with the SI bouncing, and I think rightly so. It was a cool moment. But there's a couple of things that could have mattered there for Fino. One was his Cone of Cold positioning, which was beautiful throughout, and Boar did hit a Cone of Cold, and there were several turns where something like double Sea Giant Cone of Cold would have been an option for him if Fino's minions were grouped closer together. Secondly, and here's the one that definitely mattered, his accounting for Sea Giant was perfect throughout, and that was never an option that was given to BoarControl until so late in the game where Fino just couldn't afford to play around it anymore.
Indeed. And that opened the window of opportunity. You pit your wits and will against luck, and the cards decide the rest. I think so far, from a play perspective, it's been pretty evenly matched. Strongly evenly matched, I will add as well.
Strongly evenly matched.
Well, I mean, so like, for instance, when me and Darok play, it's, you know, evenly matched, but with very poor play on both sides.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand, yeah.
Cinderstorm can answer Fairy Dragon.
Sure can. Come on, this never goes wrong, Boar. This never lives.
This is Boar we're talking about.
It never lives.
This is Boar we're talking about. Ah, just nice and Nice and back and forth.
Yeah.
He'll take the ping pong. Oh.
Unlucky, there's another one.
Even in the light of something fortunate happening, Boar still finds a way to
Just
react.
magic trick into Cinderstorm again. Oh.
No, that's better. That's way better.
It's less funny,
You have a Ziliax, though.
but it's significantly less funny.
I don't know. I kind of like the reactions to this.
Okay.
Because, you know, something else is, you know, unfortunate is going to happen right here. Like he's going to see a 3-3 or whatever. Fino's hand, not quality.
No. You see just the Sea Giant rocking as a dead card. I think Fino kind of one of the last holdouts at this point for the Sea Giant package. He has been on Mage recently, but switching away to Rogue again and kind of picked up right where he left off with the Sea Giants in his deck, which he was a huge advocate for when it first came out. The deck, that is, not Sea Giant.
Ha, this guy's toast.
He might have been an advocate for Sea Giant.
Yeah, maybe.
I will repose you the exact hypothetical you posed me. Are you killing the Fairy Dragon or the 3-3 with the Celiax?
I think I'm killing the Fairy Dragon. Yeah, Boar agrees.
So he's Fairy Dragon.
Yes.
Nice one.
Yeah, that's what Fino's looking for. He just needs to draw pressure off the top.
I have a feeling if another bad draw comes into place, we're looking at 5-5.
Whoa.
Togman. Hand size, not the important part of this right now. Thinking Conjurer's calling.
You want to just make some threes this turn?
Well, what else are you gonna do?
Questing Adventurer Ziliax? Questing Adventurer Snitch, I mean. just the game breaks, you just get a Ziliax off your 3
What?
That would bring out some facial expressions from these players.
I just don't think he's got an option. Just has to have stuff. What is that?
It's one of the new cards.
Well, I know what it is. I want to show it.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid I don't have that power, Nathan.
Battle Cry, add a random legendary to your hand. There we go.
Yep.
I was like, I know this.
Sea Giant now live for Fino.
Yeah, Boar doesn't have quite the same liberty of playing around Sea Giant.
Well, so I'm sure he didn't plan his turn to be Conjurer's Calling into exactly Imp Master sporting the extra minion.
Even despite, I mean, it's playable at 6, right?
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at is that, you know, Boar's not going to do that because he doesn't have the chance to do that. There's one Sea Giant on Fino's side, and the Sea Giant is not necessarily a payoff card. It's more just a big thing.
Right. He's got a hand stacked up with, you know, Rare Frost and Frost Nova right now anyway, so he's not too terrified of big things coming down. It's just the earlier big minions hit the board, the quicker it accelerates him having to use these freeze effects.
Oh, that's smart. That's the most stuff, and you have Leroy in hand. Start pressuring. Leroy Shadow Step in hand, no less.
Yep.
Oh, my.
Well. So here we are again.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Gotta stop the board attack. Gotta find the right cards. Have to get your own development. It's a lot of questions.
Yeah, and there's a fair few payoffs here for the Stargazer Luna Sorcerer's Apprentice line. Any additional Rare Frosts he finds, if he finds a Mana Cyclone, he rebuys basically everything he plays this turn, having already got the Elemental Evocation in hand. Looks like the line.
Step 1, protect
Behold
the Sorcerer's
the
Apprentice.
tools of
Step 2,
creation.
attack the opponent's minions.
Let's get the Sea Giant in play first.
Time runs out on me.
Betrayal positioning. Freeze the big giant. Trade off a minion. Freeze another one. Make some big stuff.
Banana going down, then Cyclone? No, okay.
He bananaed the opposing minion to trade off the Imp Master. And he missed the Evocation Cyclone.
The Evocation Cyclone, yeah.
And I would definitely be upset about that one too.
Yep. I think also he could have gone Evocation Cyclone and then played the Conjurer's Calling afterwards, right? Or would that have been given him board space issues?
That would have given him board space issues. That's the reason he bananaed the opposing minion, was to trade off the 1/4 so that he had board space for the Evocation Cyclone. And I think that he went for...
But he still could have done the same thing in the other order and ended up with the same number of minions in play, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And that way, because I think that Cyclone was going to refill his entire hand again. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure Boar kept much better track of that than I did. But yeah, obviously it not being on the board is a huge mistake.
Yeah, but that being said, I still think his position is favorable here. Even despite the freeze.
With the Frost Nova locked and loaded, ready to go.
I mean, you have a Luna that didn't die.
That's also true. And his first spell costs 0.
Oh, that one's bad, though.
Is it?
It spends 4 of your mana.
I mean...
Don't like that. Yeah, I like that a lot better.
Get something else to play on the right-hand side of your hand. Okay.
Please not the Pyroblast. Just anything. I just really don't want to see that reaction. No!
Oh, why?
No! Why
would
did I
you
say it?
things?
Risotto!
Why would you say words with your stupid mouth?
Show you fear.
Why did I say that? I knew it was gonna. I just knew it as soon as I said it. Do you trade off the sorcerers? Oh!
Apparently, yes.
Time runs out on me.
Behold the tools of creation.
Yikes.
Looking for second Sea Giant.
Job done.
With the other Frost Nova, though, I still think the position's super favorable.
Yep. Essentially, anytime BoarControl ends a turn with a Frost Nova in his hand, he's in an incredibly good position.
All right, so the out here for Feno, how much damage has he taken? 13, 17, 18, 19. He's looking at 21 damage on the other side. So he's technically alive through 0 burst. So the out would be to push through the taunt, get 2 Leroys active to face, plus 4 more damage. Where does the 4 damage come from?
The second Shadow Step off the top. If you just play 1 Leroy and then hold the second one in your hand.
There's no Eviscerates in the list. Waggle pick.
Yep.
The point I'm getting at is that I think the Leroy might come down this turn.
Choose soon.
I think if he's playing for this line. Oh, it's the Tog line, okay. So is he attempting to buy an extra turn with this?
Well, it's all going to be a formality because there is a 0 mana Pyroblast. The card that we maligned a mere 30 seconds ago is now going to clutch out this series for Feno in a series that was perhaps even more entertaining just from watching the cameras than it was just from watching the board. And it was pretty entertaining on the board.
Wow. I said the no Pyroblast because I just wanted to see more scam stuff happen, but when you got a Caligos, you'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, you'll take it.
I just forgot that cost 0. I literally just forgot that.
Really?
In my head, the 4/12 just always in my head is it's Nozari or Malagos. It's never Caligos in my head.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Admirable, but sometimes it is. And sometimes your Pyroblast costs 0. And I think Feno taking the lines that he took, he found himself covered against a few points of damage. You know, randomly generated Frostbolt, for example, wasn't going to end the game with the line he took.
Yeah.
He wasn't beating Pyroblast. He wasn't really beating the double Frost Nova hand that BoarControl generated from back-to-back Cyclones. Once that big board got pushed, once you have a big board with Mage and you start just rolling Frost Novas, it's going to lock out the game.
Indeed it is. And BoarControl is ready for an interview. Boar, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear, guys.
Congrats on your win. Those are some pretty crazy games that happened. At the end, I chanted for no Pyroblast, and it came up. I want to know your thoughts just on the matchup overall. You were quite expressive during the course of it.
Yeah, the matchup since Pocket Galaxy, I really struggled to lose it from the Mage side, even post sideboard. I played a bunch of practice games beforehand, and even with like the only way you die is if they have like the really fast start and you just have dead hands. Like if I had game 1's hand in probably game 2 or 3, that's probably a loss, right? But it's like if you can draw the Lunar Pocket Galaxy hand, you can draw the Cyclone thingy hand. As long as you store to 8 and you can get the Khadgar Conjurers off on anything, that's normally game. They sit there all game with their stupid removal cards in hand, but they just can't use them, and then you just get all in on one turn, right?
Well, what about this particular set of games that happened? Like, were there standout moments to you? Because I watch your reactions to it, and I just have to, in my head, I visualize that you remember all of these situations very vividly.
Yeah, well, there might have been a turn in game 3 that we just forget about for now, but that was probably a standout moment. Yeah, game 1, just picking up the Luna and popping off. The turns are quite difficult as well because you're trying to play around all the betrayal stuff too. I mean, the whole series was a highlight reel, right? Hit game 2 as well. Like those last 2 turns, what were the odds? I don't even know.
I feel like if anyone like watched Hearthstone just by watching your reaction to that series, they feel like you lost that series like 12-0. When in fact you won. Like, why do you look so tortured while you're playing Hearthstone all the time? What does this to you for?
I need to give you guys expressions so you can relate to how I'm feeling in the game. You're like, Boar's having a bad game here, so I've got a bad hand. Okay. And if I'm sitting there smiling, emotionless, then you're like, Boar must be thinking it's going all right. Yeah, but in reality, in my head, yeah.
You're right. When you have double Mountain Giant, double Sea Giant in your opening hand, I'm just sat there thinking, that is primo right there. That's the hand that Boar wants.
He looks really comfortable about it, yeah. So I guess he's okay with this kind of hand.
Exactly.
So talk to me about your season overall. It hasn't been the best standing for you. You know, I've expressed my sentiment that I feel like you've been pushed in some pretty unfortunate circumstances throughout most of the season. But talk to me about your thoughts on it.
You know, I was thinking after that turn in game 3, my tweet was going to be that pretty much sums up my season, where I get decently unlucky in the games, but I play decently well. I mess up once and then I lose the game. And that's kind of what happened in a lot of series. I'd mess up like one turn, and then that would result in me losing the series. Very close series. When you play best of 3, you mess up once against these players, you just lose. And I've had a few series which are touch and go that I could have easily won. I could have 2-3 more wins on my record here with perfect play. Also, just things haven't gone my way overall. I mean, no one's playing perfect, right? Other people have thrown games too, and they're at decent scores. So, yeah, it's just the nature of the format and, in general, the way it's gone. Also, I should have been playing Mage every week, probably. The deck has no unfavorables, as you clearly saw.
So I just want to check quickly. We did call that turn wrong. Is that okay, or are we going to get salty tweets about that? I just want to be clear on where the line is.
Whoa, hang on. There's plenty of justification for holding the Mana Cyclone right there.
I did get the only 2 spells I wanted off the Mana Cyclone anyway. So, you know, pretty justified there.
All right, fair point. I think we have gone about as far as we can with this interview, Boar. So we'll let you go. Good luck in your next match.
Thank you.
I was going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
We've got games to get on with. This is just one. There's a whole remaining region after this, and we've had some technical errors holding us up.
That's true.
We need to get on with things.
True story. Let's take a look at the standings and keep everyone up to speed exactly what's going on here. That win does not change things for BoarControl, though it does continue to pad that record, and there's prize money involved as well. Feno, however, the man that once looked untouchable, has instead been scathed 3 times in the last couple weeks.
Yep, and I think if you want to look at the inverse of that as well, Tice now down at the bottom at 3-10 after another loss for him. You know, 2-time European champion, one of the winningest players in Hearthstone history, one of the most popular players in Hearthstone. Few would have expected to see him down at the bottom of the league as we reach the end of proceedings.
Yep, Tice is what it's all come to. See what I did there? Because its name looks like this, but it's pronounced Tice.
Yeah.
So I mispronounced this as Tice. It's very clever if you don't think about it.